Facebook Live. I'm so glad that you're joining me today. I have not been on Facebook Live in quite a while, and I just realized you can't see my fun sweater. So here, I'm going to have to stand up so I can show you. Yep, it's Ruth Bader Ginsburg. That's it. I mean, that's how I roll. I went to the Massachusetts Conference for Women yesterday, and I hope my microphone is plugged in. This is what happens when you don't have your fellow nonprofit nerd with you to do all the tech troubleshooting. I hope you can hear me and see me, but I went to the Massachusetts Conference for Women yesterday, and it was absolutely fantastic, like really, really stellar and wonderful. And I'm still on that high. So if you want your very own Ruth Bader Ginsburg sweater, I recommend going to the company. It's called The Outrage. You can find them on Instagram at The Outrage online. And yeah, so it's fantastic. And some people that spoke at this conference, if you didn't see my Instagram stories or anything that I was posting on Facebook, I got to see Brene Brown. I got to see Alice Thomas, who wrote The Hate You Give. And she has a new book called On the Come Up, which I got, which is truly really good. And then I saw Reshma Sajani of Girls Who Code. She was fantastic. She has a fantastic TED Talk about Brain Not Perfect. Tara Westover, if you've read her book, Educated, Oprah loves it. Bill Gates loves it. Obama loves it. It's a great memoir. Of course, Malala Yousafzai was there, which was like breathtaking when you actually see her on stage. She's phenomenal. And Megan Rapinoe. Megan Rapinoe was definitely the highlight of the day. I mean, Megan Rapinoe is the highlight of my life, basically, but she's amazing. If you don't know who she is, Google Megan Rapinoe, and then your life will be changed. But basically, it was amazing. So what I wanted to do today is I want to make sure that I'm getting you in gear to hit the ground running for 2020. But before I do that, I want to see who's watching, where you're watching from, maybe something that you're working on. I know that all of you are fully into year-end mode, and you're just coming off Giving Tuesday, and you're working on a lot of projects and hopefully gearing up for the new year. But I do want to see where you are, who you are, where you're working from. I'm using Be Live TV today, so I'm actually going to attempt to share my screen at one point. But of course, because of course this is what happens, they changed their entire interface and dashboard and how everything looks and how everything works and how everything connects today. So everything's brand new, and I have no idea how anything works. So hopefully all of this is working and it's recording, and you can watch the replay if you want. But so what else do I want to say here? Well, it's freezing in Boston. There's snow on the ground. It looks like there might be some more snow tonight. I don't know. I am going to a Christmas party, and that's why I'm wearing the sweatshirt. It's our annual girls swap. Me and my girlfriends get together, and we buy each other silly, unneeded gifts and just have a good time. So I hope that you're doing something with your family, with your friends, something festive this weekend if that's what you're into. All right. So, and Josh says, of course, has to rub it in. Sunny and gorgeous, 79 degrees in West Palm Beach. Yeah, I know. All right. Hi, Kathleen. Kathleen of Girls Inc. of Greater Lowell, a Forever Julia fan. Well, I'm a Forever Girls Inc. fan, and I am not kidding you. I love Girls Inc. So thank you so much, Kathleen, for being here. Yay, I love it. All right, let's jump into what we're going to do today. We're going to create a plan to crush your nonprofit marketing goals for 2020. Now, it is December 13th today. I started my plan for 2020 in November, and it's already changed multiple times, which is kind of crazy. But I love goal setting. I love planning. I love markers. I love calendars. I love Post-it notes. That's kind of how I do it. Of course, I use a Google Calendar as well, but I really like writing things out, fleshing them out, writing them on like Sharpies and Post-it notes. And the colors, it just helps me really visualize my year, where things are really busy and where there's a little bit of white space. But no matter when you start, it's always the perfect time of year to sit back, evaluate what you're doing, analyze what's working, what's not working, and get yourself back on track, or get yourself on track for 2020. And it's a new decade, people. It is a new decade. Doesn't 2020 feel bigger somehow? It almost feels like Y2K. Some of you might be too young to remember Y2K, but it almost feels like that. It feels like there's this excitement, this energy, but almost this intense pressure to make 2020 be amazing. So I think it's going to be a fantastic year. So what I want you to do is I want you to go to my website. I'm going to put this in the chat. Actually, I put it in the caption, and get your planning worksheet. So it's at jcsocialmarketing.com/planning. And I will also put that in the captions. And that's going to help you walk through in a little more depth everything we're going to talk about today, because I'm going to go through it pretty quickly and you might not be able to write everything down, but don't worry. It's all going to be in that worksheet that you can print out, you can use with your team or your team of one, as I know most of you are a team of one. So before we get going, I really encourage you to plan out the next 6 months. So I don't know if I would focus on 12 months. That might be a little bit too much, especially because so much is changing. So for me, I like to have a bird's eye view and a big picture view of my calendar for the whole year. But then in terms of planning specific projects and promotions, I really do 6 months. And this is because it gives me a chance to see what's working, what's not working, and then iterate and improve for the last part of the year. Another ground rule, take at least 2 hours to do this. So I'm going to give you the framework today and the worksheet that you can use, but I really recommend taking at least 2 hours to get this done. You're not going to be able to do it during the broadcast. You might get some ideas, and also really try not to do it just by yourself if you can, or if you create your plan, at least run it by someone else. Now that is something that's incredibly hard for me to do because I am a literal team of one person, and my husband is so sick of me talking to him about online marketing funnels and nonprofits and consulting. So I understand that it's hard to get a second person to look at what you're doing, but it's really, really important. And then do it in any way that you want. So I have a printable worksheet. I am a pen and paper kind of girl, like when I'm brainstorming, when I'm really doing deep thinking and planning. But of course, you can use Google spreadsheets. You can use, whatever you have on the iPhone. I don't know, notes. So use whatever you need. Okay. So let's just get started. We're going to dive into planning. I'm going to see if I can share my screen so we shall see what happens. Share screen, because I want to show you this. Let me see. Of course. So there we go. I want to show you this worksheet. So let's pull this up. This is the 2020 planning worksheet. So the first thing that we want to do, right or wrong answers here. So for instance, some things that you could write down, we tried a Giving Tuesday campaign, and we raised 75% of our goal, or we attempted an Instagram hashtag contest, and we got a lot more engagement than we anticipated, which is always great. Or we attempted to use Facebook fundraisers and it didn't work. Or we started sharing client stories on Instagram and people loved it. So things like that are not hard and fast, specifically data driven. I mean, we'll see, we'll definitely see what, you can definitely see trends and themes when you're looking at the overall. I have no idea what's going on with the sound. Okay, maybe I don't want to share my screen. Hold on. Okay, sorry. Remove. All right. I think I can't share the screen. That's just what's going on, but that's totally fine because you can just always get the worksheet. So what I was saying, it was because I was sharing my screen, because why would you be able to share a screen and then also have audio? That doesn't make sense to me, right? Why would there be software where you could potentially do that? But this is what happens when you work for yourself and you literally have absolutely no one else in your house and no one to help you, and that's fine. So I won't be able to show you the worksheet, but you can easily go and download it and print it out and get it yourself. The first piece, if you missed it, was to set the stage. Ask yourself some tough questions, some easy questions. Think about the 5 to 10 things that really worked well and maybe really didn't work well, that you thought were going to work well, some things that you knew were not going to work well, right? And you did them anyway, or some things that you thought were not going to work well and actually did really well. So you know what these 5 to 10 things are in your head right now. You can probably pick them out. You can probably think about something like, okay, we did a raffle and it really worked, or we did an Instagram story contest and it was like pulling teeth to get stories, or we did Giving Tuesday and we completely reached our goal, things like that. So when you get the worksheet, write those down. I want you to ask questions like, what activities almost worked? What could we tweak that didn't work, that we know if we just tweaked a little bit could improve for next time? And how can we make slight changes to ensure better results? What do we just want to abandon? Okay. And, you don't have to tell anybody. Of course, if you're working on this with more than one person, you might have to tell that person, but what do you just want to abandon at this point? What activities have you been dying to try? What did you not get to work on this year but wish you could have? And then what was the year like for you overall? Were you stressed out? Were you crazed? Were you overwhelmed? Were you excited? Were you motivated? You're probably all of the above. But overall, what was the year like for you? And then when you are talking about the activities that you're dying to try, and this is in the first step of the planning process, I want you to choose 2 marketing activities that you've been dying to try and write them down. So you don't have to know how they're going to happen. You don't have to know exactly how it's going to get paid for or how you're going to fit it into your day. You just need to commit to take one step to making them happen. So it could even be something like, I want to learn more. I want to learn more about Apple. I want to learn more about Apple Pay, or I want to learn more about mobile giving. I want to learn more about how to create a video with my smartphone, or something like, I want to take an Instagram story and share it. So think about 2 marketing activities you want to try and write them down, and then commit to one step that you can take where you can actually start on the path and the journey to accomplishing that and actually doing that activity. All right, so step 2 is to really dream big. So this is where you're really going to establish your goals for the year. So what would it look like if I kind of waved a magic wand and said, you can do anything you want and your marketing is going to be amazing in 2020 and it's going to be wildly successful? What does that look like? And you might say things like, we want an overwhelming amount of engagement on social media. I think that might be one of all of our goals. We want to be a go-to thought leader in the industry. We want to be able to fundraise effectively because more people know who we are. We want to, quote unquote, increase visibility, right? We want to be a household name. So what would it look like if I waved a magic wand and all of your marketing goals came true? So in the second part of the worksheet, you're going to write these down. I gave you a whole page, and no activity or no dream or no goal is too small. You can write it in a paragraph or bullet points, or even just keywords, a word cloud, whatever you want to do. And I think, no idea is too big at this point. So then what we want to do is prune it down, because for most of you, you are a one-person marketing, fundraising, development, communications shop, right? So most of you are doing all of this yourself. And it's just not reasonable to think that you can accomplish 25 goals in the next 6 months or even in the next year. So take a look at your goals. And what I want you to do, and this is really going to help you prune. So if you're determined to accomplish all of these goals, great, go ahead. If you can prune any of them or even put some of them in a parking lot on the back burner for the second half of the year, that's great. But in this third part of the worksheet, I want you to make these goals actionable, right? And I talk a lot about SMART goals and SMART objectives, but that's not even what I'm talking about here. So I want you to break them down into specific strategies that can be measured and evaluated. So for example, what does overwhelming engagement look like in practice? What does increased visibility look like in reality? And what specific strategies do you need to employ to get you there? And of course, the number of strategies is dependent on your time and your capacity, your budget, your other job responsibilities. What I want you to do with this worksheet, though, and with your planning, is to write every single thing down and then edit. So don't edit yourself as you're going and say, oh, I already can see I'm getting overwhelmed. I can't do all of this. Don't edit yourself as you're going. Get all of your best ideas out on paper and then edit. So obviously, I can't accomplish every single goal. I was thinking of my goals. My goals for 2019, I actually did accomplish quite a few of them. I'm pretty proud of myself. But my goals for 2020, I think I had 10. And it would have required, 40 hours a week of work each. So I thought, okay, that's crazy. I obviously can't do that. But once you write it all down, then you can kind of prioritize it. So don't edit yourself when you're writing these down. So one example for a goal around overwhelming engagement or increased visibility or even building social media communities, there are some specific strategies that we know work. One is, starting a social media ambassador program. That's a strategy. That's a strategy. That's not a task. And that's what the next step is. Another strategy, take more video. Another strategy, post a Facebook live stream once a month. Another strategy, create and run one Facebook ad per month. Another strategy, make a list of hashtags to use on Instagram. So you kind of get the point. Those are strategies. But of course, strategies without a person assigned to them and a deadline are just ideas. They're just ideas. They're just kind of good to have. They're not going to be put into place and implemented. But write down a list of strategies that you think you could use to reach your goal, whether it's thought leadership or raising more money on social media or increasing engagement, increasing visibility. Okay. And when you get the worksheet, I walk you through some examples that you can pull from. So another example would be, we want to fundraise more effectively on social media. So one strategy could be launch a 2-week digital fundraising campaign, launch a 2-week digital storytelling campaign, launch a campaign, because we know that campaigns with a start and an end are more effective. Create a thank you video and share it with new donors on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. So there's specific strategies that we can use to accomplish our goals. Now the strategies, this is part 4. Strategies become projects, because you can't just write on your to-do list, write on your little pad of paper, start a social media ambassador program. Okay, well, that's not something that you could cross off your to-do list. There are multiple steps and tasks required for when you start your social media ambassador program and launch it and run it and continue to run it. So you're not going to get very far just writing down, start a social media ambassador program. So I encourage you to go through each strategy and create a mini project plan. This is going to help you when you're pruning, because you're going to start to see, wow, in reality, this is all a lot of work. And I really want to share my screen here, but that's fine. It's fine. Because I want to show you the table. So I break it down into the steps required to actually accomplish this strategy. So if the strategy becomes a project, for example, we would like to host and run a Facebook Live every month. That's a project with multiple steps and multiple people that need to be involved and multiple deadlines. Think of all the things that go into a Facebook Live. I could tell you a million of them, right? You need a script, you need an idea. If you're bringing on a guest, you need to talk to the guests, you need to check the Wi-Fi, you need to check the sound, you need to make sure all of these different things are in place. So who's going to be the project lead on that, and who's going to be able to help you accomplish that? So when you're thinking, let me see. Now, Dana said that you could hear me, but it was just when it was split screen. So I'm going to try something. I'm going to try to show you the worksheet and then just not show myself at all. All right, well, everything is failing today, so it's fine. But when you get the planning worksheet, as you might have seen in the screenshot, I divided into a table of an action item, which is going to lead you toward your accomplishing your strategy of, say, your social media ambassador program. And it's an action item of what is the first step we need to take? Who's the person responsible? When is the deadline? And what is the time estimated to complete this? Now, that is very important because you're going to want to estimate how much time. You're probably going to want to overestimate how much time it's going to take to do all these things, because you will then see, when you have all of your goals written out, all of the strategies, and then the project plan for each strategy with time estimates, you're really going to get a good picture of how much you can realistically do. And I really encourage all of you, not to bite off more than you can chew. I know that a lot of you are one person shops, doing everything, managing everything. And I just encourage you, not to bite off more than you can chew. So also realistically evaluate your other job responsibilities. Are there things that you could combine or consolidate? Are there things that you could take off your plate? Are there ways that you can shift things around? I'm sure that's a lot easier said than done for a lot of you, but this was probably the number one question I got this year. And I was going to tally up all my speaking engagements and actually tell you how many I did this year. And I think it was literally over like 70, but I didn't tally them all up. But the number one question I got was, Julia, how can I possibly do this as a one-person shop? Or how can I possibly, and then the second prong of that question is, how can I get my coworkers and my boss on board with all of these fantastic ideas that I have? So my recommendations are, one, write down every single one of your job responsibilities, every single one, and then put a time estimate next to it. You have to put a time estimate next to your job responsibilities, because if you come up with an 80-hour work week, that's not feasible. And that is something concrete that you can go to your boss with. And I've talked about this before. When I was in college, not in college, but when I was a teenager and I wanted to borrow the car, I could not go to my dad and say, I want to borrow the car. No, that would never work. He'd literally want me to give him like a project plan. He would say, I need to know where you're going, when you're going to be back, how you plan on paying for gas, who's going to be with you. Like, he had a checklist for me. And that's fine. I'm willing to bet your boss is the same way. If you go to your boss and you just say, I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, I have too much to do, it's not as effective as if you go to them and say, look, the board added this to my plate last week and something else has to come off because I did an evaluation of my time and I found that I'm spending 5 hours here, 2 hours here, 3 hours there, and it's just not feasible for me to add another 5-hour week project. So it's much easier for you to advocate for yourself when you have that data and when you are actually writing it down and presenting it in that format. And then also on the buy-in question, when you have a plan like this, it is a lot easier to get buy-in, because a lot of us, we just want to go to our boss and say, hey, I want to do some Facebook Lives this year, or I want to get video equipment, or I want to do a bunch of Instagram stories. Without a plan, it's incredibly hard for your boss or any of your coworkers to understand what you mean. What are the implications? How much is it going to cost? How much time is it going to take? How much of my time is it going to take? How much of your time is it going to take? How much of everybody else's time is it going to take? So if you have this project plan, at least something fleshed out a little bit, then you can go to your supervisor and say, I think we should start a social media ambassador program. And these are the 5 steps that I think we should take first. And I think we could do this in the next 6 months. And I think that I can carve out some time, and here's how I can do it. So when you're I think I had that advantage growing up in a house where my dad was a lawyer and really, really needed all the specifics. And actually, my first boss was the exact same way. My first boss, oh no, you could never go to him and say, and you couldn't go to him and say, I think we should do XYZ, without saying, this is how much it's going to cost. This is who's going to do it. This is how much time it's going to take. And I think that set me up well to do this kind of planning and to advise people on this kind of planning. All right. So I didn't even want to take half an hour of your day, but I've taken half an hour. If you have any questions, let me know, email me, make sure you grab that worksheet. And I'm still debating if I'm going to do a Facebook Live next week. I think that I might, if you have any topics that you want me to talk about, I have some in mind, but if there's anything specific you want to hear about before 2020, before we dive in, because then I'll be taking the rest of the year off completely. So thank you for joining me today. I'm so excited to see all these familiar faces. And I really hope to connect with you, hopefully see you live somewhere, hopefully see you in real life, see you on the Twitters, see you on Facebook, but we'll be in touch soon. So if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments, or you can always email me. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a fantastic Friday. Have a great rest of your week. Thank you so much.